Hello and welcome to the fourth in our series of interviews with Robertson Scholars. Today we'll be interviewing Ryan Bounagui, a former GCU journalism student who now works at Skills Development Scotland. Here at the Robertson Trust's offices in Bath Street, we settled down to discuss Ryan's experiences during his time as a scholar, detailing how the Trust's work helped develop his skills and introduce him to many industry professionals. He gives us a timeline of his progress since, and in turn, a valuable insight into the benefits that the Trustee's knowledge brings.
I went to Whitehill Secondary School over in the east end of Glasgow, over in Denniston, and I got involved with the Robertson Trust through my pastoral care teacher. She told me all about the Trust and what it stood for and the kind of opportunities that you could get from it if you became a scholar. And when she told me all about them, I kind of applied for it, went to the interview with Ian Valentine. He interviewed me in Strathclyde Uni, and I can quite vividly recall being quite nervous because I so badly wanted to become a Robertson Scholar. Went for the interview, and finally, thankfully, a couple of days later he got back in touch and said that I was a Robertson Scholar. So I'm from Duke Street, sort of east end of Glasgow, as I say, and I think every single scholar will tell you the exact same thing. The bursary, the grant from the Trust is massive in helping you during your time through education. One of the sort of classic answers, and it's true, a lot of people say it, but it's because it's true, things like buying books. Books aren't cheap, they're quite expensive once you become a student. I know for journalism, we're quite lucky in that sense, but for other classes, other courses, they can be quite steep. But no, the bursary, the grant, really helped me. And as well as things like that, it's things like, going out for lunch whenever you want to. As well, buying clothes, buying sort of smart clothes. Again, smart clothes aren't cheap. And if you're a journalism student or even going to uni, you can't be turning up in just any old rags. You have to be turning up in fairly decent clothes, fairly decent garments. I think it helped me in so many ways, the Robertson Trust bursary. Even if it wasn't compulsory, I would make it self-compulsory. I would make sure to go to every single outward bound trip. They were brilliant, such a great laugh. I think with any Robertson Trust event, it's always a good laugh, whether it's in here in their HQ, their offices, or whether it's sort of Fort William or down at Ullswater, down at the Lake District. So I went to a couple, as I say, I went to Fort William and Ullswater, down at the Lake District. And it was just sort of a weekend, 3 days of raw fun and enjoyment, doing a lot of to begin with, team building activities, and I really enjoyed things like that because sort of Robertson Scholars, we all come from all over the country, from St Andrews, Glasgow, Scottish Borders, wherever it may be, and it's really good to spend a couple of days and do things with your sort of fellow scholars, people that are going through the same process as you, from very similar backgrounds as you. It was brilliant. It was so mad to just kind of have that weekend of fun, that weekend away with them, and get to know some new faces. I went to Ullswater, was the one that I went back to, the Lake District. It was absolutely gorgeous down that way, very picturesque. And I can only thank the Trust for taking me and sort of selecting me as a team leader, team mentor type thing. And that was a great experience because a lot of the guys in my group were kind of first year uni types, and I think at the time I was fourth year uni, and as a fourth year, having been through the process and came through that, came along that path, to hear the kind of things that the first year uni students were saying, I was saying the exact same thing when I was in their shoes, and you hear things like how they would complain that their essays are quite difficult, or there are too many assignments and too many deadlines and not enough time. I'm sitting here as a fourth year with a dissertation to do, a 12,000 word dissertation. So I think that was to go back, it was an honour to be asked in the first place, to kind of be given that responsibility and then lead a group of 10 sort of scholars over the course of a weekend. But as I say, it was very similar to the one I went to as a sort of scholar and not as a leader. The exact same fun and enjoyment, just this time was a little different in the sense that I had some responsibility. was 5. It was a week.
A week.
Pretty much, it was a week sailing trip.
Right.
And that was just one of the. You can see the smile on my face as I think about it. It was a fantastic week. That was kind of the prerequisite to joining onto the Surrey and Good Award. You had to do that week's sailing trip, and then that was you in, if you know what I mean. But I mean I'd been sailing once before, but I was very young at the time. But because I was a lot older and old enough to appreciate it and understand it and enjoy it properly, it was such a great laugh. I think one of the days that I remember most is the Commonwealth Games flotilla, 250 boats sailing up the Clyde. Apparently it made sort of River Clyde history, and to think that we were one of those 250 boats, that was it was a carnival in the Clyde. Honestly, it was class. It did. I mean, referring back to the Surrey and Good Award, as part of that, I mean, after the sailing, once you were in, you had a kind of series of dinners that we'd have through the room through there, and at each and every dinner, he had a different guest, and a couple of times he brought in kind of heads of companies. I mean, not just any companies, sort of really well branded, well known, respectable companies. And one guy he brought in was Ian McConnell, the business editor at the Herald and Times Group. And I mean, I may never have approached Ian for work or anything like that, but he helped me in so many ways. I mean, for example, that I came to a point where I was applying for a placement with the Guardian, and it was this sort of UK-wide, nationally competitive, so I was competing against guys from all over the UK, and thanks to the Surrey and Good, thanks to meeting Ian McConnell through Surrey and Good, I could ask Ian McConnell for some help and assistance when I came to my application, asking me to put this kind of professional, give it a sort of sense check, and he helped, and the Guardian luckily enough came back positive, and I got the placement. So wee things like that, I'm really thankful for to Surrey and Good, Ian McConnell, and just the trust in general. Well, sort of last summer was quite a whirlwind summer. Started off just before graduation, but I'd left. I'd submitted my dissertation. Once you've done that, you've got your freedom, so to speak. I went to Azerbaijan, Baku, and that was working as a video journalist, filming the European Games. It's like the Euros of the Olympics, if you know what I mean. So it's just consigned to European countries. Very first sporting event of its kind, and we spent 3 weeks out in Baku, turning up to different venues, filming things that were then going out all across the world, interviewing athletes. That was my personal favourite, interviewing athletes, and just doing a lot of kind of journalistic activities for this international broadcasting company. So that was kind of how my summer started off, and quite a good way to start it. And then after that, that's when the Guardian thing came up, and that was 2 weeks down at the Guardian, and that was just such a massive learning experience. Because if you were to tell me even a year ago, 18 months ago, that one day I'd be sitting in the Guardian office getting my bylines in an internationally respected paper like the Guardian, I would never have believed you. And then after that, I think 2 or 3 weeks after the Guardian, I managed to get a place with Sky News, and went back down to London. It's kind of yo-yoing between London and Glasgow for the second half of that summer. I went back down to Sky News and worked there for 3 weeks. But I remember vividly emailing, I think it was after the Guardian, emailing Serene and saying, listen, I know categorically for a fact that these experiences would not have happened, materialised, been possible without the help and support of the likes of yourself or the likes of the Robertson Trust. So I've always wrote in my reports, and I still always say it, I'm always eternally grateful for how they've helped shape sort of a lot of my life experiences and what I've done and achieved in life. Currently I'm working with SDS Skills Skills Development Scotland. I'm working in their comms department, working in their communications. It's more, I mean my degree is in journalism, but it's more kind of PR, but it's the exact same skill set that you use across sort of both fronts. I mean that's a great job, a wonderful job. I mean, I was never too keen on office jobs before I left uni, but this current job's kind of opened my eyes up and showed me that they're not as bad as what I maybe thought they were. But no, it's a great job. I mean, I would recommend the Robertson Trust to absolutely anyone with any shared interest in the Robertson Trust, whether it be someone at school, a teacher, a financier, an investor, someone with a bit of cash to donate to the trust. I would recommend the trust to absolutely anyone, because as I say, I've absolutely no sort of mistake that it's helped me in big ways, and not just me, a lot of other guys that I know. It's helped them a great deal. So, and I guess I speak for all of us when I say that we're always eternally thankful and always very grateful for that help and support.